There we go. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining me. My name is Katie Jones. I am a two-time IATAN card holder. I've been a travel agent now for a little over 3 years. Absolutely love what I do. I'm a gold consultant, and we are going to learn a little bit more, maybe, about national parks. Um, so let's get rolling here with this. Share. All right. So, let's see. I think if I do that, yep. Um, all right. So the national parks. Oh no, you didn't. If you don't know anything about me, I absolutely love technology. No, I don't. But here we go. We have backups. Getting better. Me and the rig. I live, work full time in a motorhome. Um, I have been to 38 national parks. I've lived and worked in two national parks for a season. Countless battlefields, countless state parks. 7 years now traveling on the road, and the rest you already know. There are 63 national parks, countless national memorials, state parks, etc., etc. But we're here talking about national parks today. You can tell by this map, there's definitely a concentration from the middle of the country west, with a couple throughout the rest of the regions. But ideally, we are Midwest and West. Planning, you need a good amount of time to plan a national park. If you had a quote request come in tomorrow for this summer, could you do it? Yes, you can. But ideally, we're going to have 6 to 12 months. And I'm going to talk about why that is here in just a minute. But part of the reason is because there are reservation systems in place, and um, they open up for lodging in the park, they open up a year out. For road reservations, they open up 30 days. It changes every year. You've really got to get on recreation.gov. I've got that link later through the presentation here. But um, even for parks like Pearl Harbor, you have to have a reservation. The reservations they cost $1. It's a crowd control system that the parks have put into place. There are limited roadways, limited parking, limited Wi-Fi and cell service, limited service, food, gas, lodging, etc. Limited restaurants, limited accommodations. So when somebody comes this week and says, "Hey, we'd love to do Yellowstone National Park this summer in July," that could get pretty tricky because things book up incredibly fast. There's no shortage of beauty in the national parks. Um, this is part of Yosemite. Absolutely loved it. The first picture was from Glacier National Park. That's probably my favorite. Parks, you could divide them into all kinds of categories, but for the purposes of this training today, I took a look at some of the top driving parks, meaning there's a lot you can see from the car. If you've got folks that don't have a lot of mobility or multi-generation clients, and they're looking for parks to do, this is a great list. The Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado, the Hawaii Volcano National Park on the Big Island of Hawaii, Skyline Drive in Shenandoah, which is Virginia. The Going to the Sun Road is Glacier National Park, Crater Lake Rim Drive. And at all of these parks, are they just drive-throughs? No, you could get out and do some short little walks, and several of these parks have some phenomenal long 12, 15, 20 mile hikes. But these parks you can see quite a bit of from the road. So they would be great recommendations for folks that aren't big hikers. That being said, I am a big hiker. I love hiking the parks. So some of those favorite for hiking, rock climbing, lots of different adventures, whitewater rafting. You've got Yosemite. You've got the Great Smokies, which, by the way, the Great Smokies in Tennessee is the most visited national park in our country. Olympic National Park, Washington, Glaciers in Montana, Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado, Zion, which is in Utah. You've got Grand Teton. That's a great hiking Park, and then Rainier in Washington, Mount Rainier. Is this it? No, there's lots of them. I've been to multiple of these parks and have hiked a lot of those parks, and would rank them pretty high. When you have a travel quote request come in, keep in mind that most of the parks are big. And because they're big, this bottom, you really need to know where your accommodations are going to be in relation to excursions or activities your clients want to do. This picture is a picture of myself and my sister who came to see me in Glacier National Park. We wanted to do whitewater rafting. We did, clearly. It was a blast. On Glacier National Park, whitewater rafting is on the west side of the park. And so if you had folks staying on the east side of the park, you're talking about a 2.5 hour drive to get from the east side to the west side. I was a concierge at East Glacier National Park Lodge for a summer, and I had guests that took the train. There's an Amtrak train that leaves from Chicago and comes across the top of the country, drops them right at our front door, basically. And they had rafting trips. All the rafting trips are on the west side of the park, and there's no way to get them there. So you want to take into account where your folks are going to be staying. Do they have transportation, and where are they in relation to what they're going to want to be doing? The experiences, hiking, camping, what kind of accommodations they want. You're qualifying your clients just like you would if they were going to an all-inclusive resort. The qualifying just looks a little different. Advise less is more. Sometimes I have folks come to me and they want to do 6 parks. This is an overlay. The purple is an overlay, and these 2 circles, I always call it the figure 8. This is the road system of Yellowstone National Park. To scale, and this is Orlando. So this purple overlay is an overlay, and hopefully gives you kind of an idea of just how big we're talking, right? They're big, and it's going to take some time to just drive through it. So when you say you've got people staying over here in Cody, which you can't really see that, I just know Cody is over here on this east side, but they want to come down here and do Old Faithful, it's going to take them maybe 2 hours, maybe 4 hours, maybe longer one way. So you really need to just take into consideration what parks you're talking about and how big and how easily folks can navigate driving from one place to another. So longer stays, fewer parks, fly in, rent a car, have a home base, but don't overschedule them. And I come back to Yellowstone here. Yellowstone alone can easily take a week, and not just because it's big, but I want to bring your attention over here. Here's these, I call it the figure 8, the road system. This is the south entrance of Yellowstone. There's a west entrance, Cody. This is the northeast entrance, and then the north entrance up into Montana. West Yellowstone, this area right over here, it has a lot of it's a cute little town. It's got a lot of places that folks can stay, hotels, VRBOs, etc., etc. However, if you notice, 20 comes in and dumps right into town. 287 comes down, dumps right into town. 191 comes down and dumps into town. You've got 3 major roadways that are coming to one town, which literally this is one stoplight with one entrance into the park. I did a summer of working. I actually didn't work at Yellowstone. I worked down here at Grand Teton National Park. We'll come here later. It was not uncommon for us to hear of 2 and 3 hour wait times just to enter the park through West Yellowstone, meaning the traffic jam was backed up so far at this red light in town and the turnstiles of getting in through the park ranger stations, 2 and 3 hours just to get into the park. So, if somebody came to me looking for visiting Yellowstone, I don't like to recommend West Yellowstone. I like to come south or north. But I kind of stay away from West Yellowstone. Here you've got Old Faithful. You want to do both parts of this figure eight. There's lots to see and do. You can do portions of it one day, come back, do portions again the next. But I'm still going to keep your attention on this map because this is Montana and this is Yellowstone National Park. It takes up a huge portion of Montana. But just below it is Grand Teton National Park. They virtually sit one on top of each other. It's about 12 miles from the edge of Grand Teton into Yellowstone. Um, Grand Teton is also a very busy park, lots to see and do, but not quite as crazy as Yellowstone. Great hiking in Grand Teton. This red line over here is showing you that just outside to the west of the park is the town that most people refer to it as Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It's really the name of the town is Jackson. The hole refers to a geographic anomaly. It's not really the name of the town. It's Jackson. You can fly into Jackson and get lodging in between both parks. That's my preference when I'm working with clients. But if they want to go and see Yellowstone, my recommendation is that they visit both parks because both are very worthy. All right, moving on. So this can take a lot of time to visit, right? Yellowstone's big, but not just because it's big. Have you ever heard of a buffalo jam? Who's heard of a buffalo jam? I have. Um, this is my daughter. She came to see me when I was out in Grand Teton National Park. And this herd of buffalo was probably about, mm, I don't know, 300 individual buffalo big. It was massive. I had never seen one quite that big. And you can tell in this picture down here, they're on the road, they're on the side, they're everywhere. Um, we were on our way to the top part of that figure eight. We were going up to Mammoth Hot Springs, and we sat here parked for almost 2.5 hours. Parked for 2.5 hours. And that's because the buffalo didn't really move. And you're not really going to move a buffalo. The line of cars that were stopped here were probably several hundred. So you can imagine, even once we did start moving, how long it took for us to keep going. Um, Buffalo's one thing. You're in bear country too. If there's a bear spotting, people are going to stop. So even though GPS says it's going to take 30 minutes, it could take 2.5 hours. And that's okay. We clearly we were thrilled that we had several hundred buffalo on the road. We took lots and lots of pictures and videos. It was a fantastic experience, but um, it definitely added to the length of our day adventure for sure. All right, moving right along. This is an image of Glacier National Park, probably my favorite. And if I look at this red arrow, it says West Glacier. And I know this line is hard to see, but there's a pink line that almost follows this river up to the L here in National, and then back down through over here to St. Mary's Lake and back out to the St. Mary Visitor Center to this red arrow. That red line that's cutting the park in half essentially is known as the Going to the Sun Road, the GTTSR, Going to the Sun Road. From the west to the east, that road's about 50 miles. There are hairpin turns, back turn 90 degrees, you name it, very narrow, drop off edges. The speed limit varies from 40 to 10. And if you make no stops, it likely will take you 2.5 hours to go from one side to the other. There's lots of stops to make. You could spend a day if you entered at St. Mary's and stopped at some of the pull-offs and even went and did a couple of short 1 mile, 2 mile little hikes or just got out and took pictures. Um, Easily spend a day. driving the Going to the Sun Road, and then guess what? You got to turn around and come back. Or you can come off on the west side of the Going to the Sun Road, come out into West Glacier, and take this pink line that goes around the outside of the park, Highway 2, and come back around. And to get from West Glacier back over here to St. Mary's Visitor Center, where there's lodging, 2.5 hours coming around. So about the same time of travel, you might have more sights to see here and definitely some wildlife. There's lots of opportunities at bear sightings, goats, mountain goats, sheep, etc. throughout the park. So my personal preference would be to drive through it and not come out and around, but you certainly can. So again, they're big and it takes a long time. Here's another thing to keep in consideration when you're booking Glacier National Park. This road up here at Logan Pass, and just on the east side of Logan Pass, is a place called the Drift on the road. And the Drift is a section of road, I think it's about 10 miles of the road that is just set up just right that the snow drifts in the wind. It's called the Big Drift. And because the Big Drift is like 150 feet of snow. And I should have pulled up a picture of the plowing that has to happen to get the road clear from snow in the spring. It's insane. Certainly not a job I would want. Oftentimes, the road is not open from the east to the west side until sometimes even the middle of July because they're still plowing the Big Drift. So if you have folks staying on the St. Mary side in late June, it's a very real possibility that they will be taking Route 2 around the park because they can drive in so far, but then they're going to get turned around and have to come drive right back out. And if they want to see everything else on the west side of the park, they're going to have to drive out and around. Same with staying on the west side. If they can only go so far, if they want to see what's on the east side, they're going to have to drive around. So learn some things about the park, and I've got some resources coming up that are going to help you learn. I do know because I'm actively engaged in several Facebook groups with national parks on a whole, but the Many Glacier area, which is this area up here, you can only access it from over here on the east side. Most of that area is closed for the summer of 2025. They're doing some reconstruction and updating. That's a very popular area, probably one of my most favorite areas of the whole park. And with that closed, you can imagine how much more crowded the rest of the park will be. Before we leave this arrow down here is pointing to Kalispell, and Kalispell is where the nearest airport would be if you were going to fly folks in. Kalispell is a decent sized town, nice airport, car rentals available there. There is lodging in Whitefish, there's lodging in Columbia Falls, West Glacier. Those are your three main areas that you would maybe look for lodging in. There's lodging in the park. Those are typically non-commissionable, although sometimes I do see them on Expedia Tap once in a blue moon. The national park lodges are on Expedia Tap, but not very often, and they book up super fast. Alrighty, let's take a look at another big state, California, and the national parks here. There, I was in California for a long time, but I'm not anymore. They're also very expensive. So you've got the redwood at the very top of the northwest, and then you got Joshua Tree down here. You've got 853 miles between these two parks. It's a lot of ground cover. I would bundle. You might be flying into San Francisco, and then you could bundle the redwoods, the Lesson Volcanic Park, Yosemite, and maybe Pinnacles, or fly into San Diego and bundle the southern parks. You're talking a lot of drive time if you were going to try and do all the California parks in one fell swoop. Utah, another big state. We've got the Mighty Five in Utah. I've done three of the five. I flew into Vegas and had a VRBO kind of in the middle of Capitol Reef, Bryce, and Zion. Absolutely love those parks. I've yet to get to Arches or Moab, but they're on the list. But you can see I did this specifically. That's a 16-hour drive. You're going to spread out. Could you do it in a week? You can. But you're looking for different accommodations, right, at every stop. Get your people close to where they want to go and see and hike. So, Utah, lots of parks. We didn't even talk the Grand Canyon because that is right here. And if you're ever going to recommend Grand Canyon, I highly recommend doing the Hoover Dam tour, which is on Viator. That's a great tour outside of Grand Canyon. So really, you've got six within a relatively doable drive from the Vegas airport. All right, let's keep moving along here. We've got Washington State, their national parks. We've got three. We've got the Northern Cascades. We've got Olympic National Park, and then we've got Mount Rainier. Personally, I would use Seattle as my home base, fly them in, and then you could do day trips. Even with an overnight, Olympic National Park would require an overnight. There's a lot of driving involved in parts out here on the coast. Mount Rainier is spectacular. I've not gotten to Northern Cascades because I had it on my agenda to do 2 years ago when I was in that region, and fires and smoke just made it impossible. That's another thing to keep in mind. The longer we get into the summer, particularly in the Northwest, it doesn't matter if there's not fires in Washington, if there's the way the wind blows, if there's fires in Oregon, it could really be devastating for doing much. Believe it or not, I've seen mountains disappear because the smoke is so thick. One of the pro tips I love to advise my clients on if they're visiting national parks is in their luggage, pack a soft-sided cooler. And when they make a stop at the grocery store, plan on some picnic lunches. There's so many great places you can pull off and hold picnics and ex really enjoy being in nature than sitting in a restaurant that you can sit in a restaurant back in your hometown, but you're not going to get the views that you're going to get in these national parks. So that's one of my tips. And my clients love that. All right, how do we actually do this? By the way, this is Zion National Park. Yes, that's me. This is one of my favorite all-time hikes. It's called the Narrows. Absolutely love it. Yes, that water is darn cold. I did not spend the money to rent thermal insulated waders or waterproof boots. Did I regret that decision? No, I did not. Um, but these poles, hiking poles, highly recommend hiking poles. Fabulous hike. All right, let's talk about vendors. Vax won't work. Why won't Vax work? Let's go back to, this is Glacier National Park. Here's Kalispell. Vax is likely going to keep you within a 10 or 20-mile radius of Kalispell, and Columbia Falls is further than that for lodging, right? So when you bundle on Vax, it's going to give you a car rental and it could give you great airfare, but your hotels are likely going to be limited here. Same with Yellowstone. If they want to visit Yellowstone and we want to fly into Jackson, your hotels are all going to be in Jackson, and that's a long way to get up into Yellowstone. So Vax is not going to be your go-to for booking national parks. What vendors are Room Res, Beds Online, Expedia Tap, Vacasa, which is another VRBO vendor, if you don't know, Trafalgar, with Insight is also a vendor under Trafalgar, as well as Exotica. Both of those, all three of those companies offer multiple different like bus tours. So if you've got an older population, I will say those bus tours move you at a fast pace. So it's a night here, get back on the bus, a day here, get back on the bus, a night here, get back on the bus. But those are great vendors. They already have it all put together. They pay a good commission. There you go, if that works for your clients. I charge a planning fee when I do national parks because a lot of things either aren't commissionable or you're not going to earn a lot of commission. And they take a lot of time. So I do charge a planning fee. There's a lot of research involved. I said before when it came to Glacier National Park, that Amtrak has a line that leaves Chicago and goes across the northern country and it keeps going. It drops folks off at Glacier National Park, and then it keeps going into Seattle and then down in California. I personally will never recommend that as an option for folks. When I was a concierge at Glacier National Park, I had three different groups out on the porch considering lawsuits against Amtrak for stories after stories, devastating stories of people's vacations ruined because of Amtrak. I would recommend Amtrak if you're going to go from one big city to another. If you want to go from Washington, D.C. up to New York City to watch shows, sure. I'm not recommending it for overnights. Just a personal thing, and I'll pass that along. I also have my clients really do some research in the parks, more so than I do with a lot of other destinations. I want them to figure out what they want to do because that's key on where we're going to have our lodging. And then the wildlife do's and don'ts and bear safety. I don't want to be involved or responsible if someone gets hurt. So I will give them a couple of YouTube videos and things to watch and see. And yes, I would say that $60 or $70 can of bear spray is worth your life. Yes, it is, and you're going to invest in it. Personally, the summer I spent in Glacier National Park, I saw over 100 bear. And I would say probably 10 or 15 of those bears were within 20 feet of me. Literally, not an exaggeration. I will say by the 20th time that happened, my feelings were getting hurt because they appeared to be very disinterested in me, totally ignored. However, it takes one time for a bear to not be ignoring me or very interested in me for something awful to happen. I've had my bear spray pulled and primed and ready to go numerous times, but I've never fired it. All right, other resources we can suggest. I'm going to talk a lot about this guide along. I've got some information coming up on it soon here in just a minute. Recreation.gov. That's the app you'll need for park reservations. The Going to the Sun Road for Glacier National Park. You have to have a park pass and you have to have a road pass. And that road pass you get on recreation.gov. They're not unlimited. So they only allow so many visitors in the park, trying to help manage the parking. The parks were just not designed for the amount of visitation that they get at this stage of the game. And so there's just no parking and it's just overrun. So in efforts to make it a better experience for everyone, there are road reservations. There's some ways around that, and they do change every year. This year, you need road reservations coming from the west side of Glacier, and that starts, I think, at 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. So you can go in the park before 6 a.m. without a road reservation or after 3 p.m. without a road reservation. And then from the east side of the park, I don't think you need a road reservation until middle of July to August, I think was the last update I saw, because there's not as many visitors on the east side. Anyway, they all change every year. So again, jump in some Facebook groups or go to recreation.gov. The updates are there. It'll tell you what you need to know. But Facebook, as with everything else in every other destination, Facebook groups are a fantastic resource for itineraries, information, etc. This sharing shack we're getting to here in a minute, and the National Park Service sites are fantastic. I am a proponent of leave no trace. The 7 principles of that: plan ahead, prepare, travel, camp on durable surfaces, dispose of waste properly. If you're going to pee in the woods, do not leave your toilet paper, that means. So pack a baggie, or make other arrangements. Leave what you find. I love the rocks at Glacier National Park. They're just beautiful. But if I pick up a rock and you pick up a rock and everybody else picks up a rock, pretty soon there's no rocks. So leave what you find. Minimize your campfire impact, respect wildlife, and be considerate of the other visitors. So there's more to consider. A lot of people love to travel with their dogs. National parks have a lot of rules about dogs in parks. As a general rule, dogs are allowed on pavement. They are not allowed on dirt trails. So what are you doing with your dog if you're going to go take a trail someplace? Are they in the car? What are you doing with them? So There's trail etiquette. If you're going up a hill and somebody's coming down the hill, they should step aside and let you go up. Keep your momentum. Painted rocks are a big no-no in the national park. Stack rocks are a big no-no in the national park. And food waste on trails is a big no-no in the national parks. We're not bringing wildlife to the trails, people. Come on. All right. Guide along, my favorite. I'm laughing because I don't even know his real name. I call him Marv. He's a gentleman. He's from Canada. He is a tour guide, and he has guides for almost all of our national parks. And if you go to guidealong.com, you will come to this website. This travel planner, if you click that tab, I'm going to get there. It will take you to all the parks that he has guides for, and it will show you itineraries for free. So if you have somebody that says, "Hey, I want to go to the Great Smokies," and you've never been, you have no idea, go to Guide Along, go to Trip Planners. I should change my example because I used Black Hills, the Black Hills in South Dakota, Rushmore, Badlands, Devil's Tower, Trip Planner, or the Blue Ridge Parkway. Either way, here's I I clicked I clicked Trip Planners and I scrolled through and I picked Black Hills, Rushmore, Badlands. These are all South Dakota parks, and he's got one tour for all of them and a trip planning. So I could download his whole itinerary for the Black Hills, the Rocky. I can download them all for free. So if you don't know where to start, Guide Along's got you covered. But what I really love about Guide Along is his app. And this says Gypsy Guide because it used to be called Gypsy Guide back in the day, but now it's called Guide Along. So sorry, don't get confused. I know that says Gypsy Guide. But he has a free app. You pay for his tour. So if we were going to get that Black Hills, South Dakota tour, maybe it's $9.99. And it is on Viator. So you would get a little bit of commission off of this. But what happens is you tell your folks, get the app, pay for the tour, and download the app. And once you are driving along, open the app and hit start tour. And I know there's a lot of information here, but all these dots, if you're driving north to south, he's going to come on and start talking. Coming up ahead on our right is a place we won't want to miss. He doesn't talk for long. He has a great voice, and his subject matters vary from history to geography to geology to interesting little known facts about the park. They're all different. And if you're going north to south, he has one set of information. And when you turn around and come back the other way, he has new sets of information. But he does play your very own personal guide. Coming up ahead on our right is a place we don't want to miss. The turnoff you'll see, this sign, pull in here and I'll tell you more. The next time he might say, you'll notice a pull off coming up on our right. If we're short on time, you can skip that one. It's like having a tour guide in your car, and he is just literally fantastic. Absolutely love him. Learned so much driving through Yellowstone. This park is Yellowstone. Learned so much driving through Yellowstone because it's a big park. And you're like, well, gosh, what is that I'm looking at? Well, he'll tell you. And he's fabulous. Back on our resource slide, I had mentioned joining Facebook groups in the Sharing Shack. And I know these pictures are not the best and they're blurry, but the Sharing Shack is done in memory to Maya. Maya was a woman that loved the park and loved helping people and had just a really giving soul. And friends of hers wanted to figure out the best way they could honor her memory, and they started the Sharing Shack. And so, as you come in and maybe you make a stop at Walmart and buy a cooler because you're going to pack picnics, etc., but now you can't take all this home on the airplane with you, the Sharing Shack's on the west side of the park. If you join the Facebook group for the Sharing Shack, they'll give you the directions. It's free. You can stop by, and if they have a cooler on the porch or in the shack, you can pick the cooler, fill it up with whatever. There's non-perishable items in there, but maybe you need a camping chair. Maybe you need a can of bear spray. Maybe you need bug spray. Maybe you need all kinds of things you can't take on an airplane that are non-perishable. They're in the Sharing Shack. And it grows obviously throughout the season. And as it's grown, this is, I think, the fifth year of the Sharing Shack. inventory rolls over and they keep a lot of things. There's hiking poles sometimes. There's updates. People say, "Yeah, I was at the shack. There's 8 cans of bear spray, whatever, whatever." It's a phenomenal resource, and this is one of the only parks I know that offers this kind of sharing, helpful situation. So the Sharing Shack, it has their own. They have their own Facebook page. All right, getting close here to wrapping this up. My summer plans. This is, I pulled over on, it's called the Avenue of the Giants. It's just south of the Redwood National Forest in California. Those trees are massive, but I've got lots more national parks on my agenda. Redwood, Mount Rainier, Northern Cascades, Badlands, Grand Tetons, and maybe Banff, which is up in Canada. This is an app I use for planning my RV trips, which if you have RV people that can we, yes, we can rent RVs. Um, that's a double-edged sword in my opinion. Um, Cruise America is a company you can rent through and earn commission, and El Monte. Both companies offer commissionable RV rental services. RV campgrounds book up really fast. So before you rent an RV, make sure there are campgrounds that still have space available for your clients. This is an app I use called RV Parky. I absolutely love it. It helps with finding campgrounds, gas stations, etc., etc. All right, and we have come to the end. So it is time for questions and answers. I'm going to say thanks everybody for being here. I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to stop the recording.